And I just want to state this. Think outside the box. Please just hear us out, whether you think this guy, is fake Toshi or not. Just look at what's being presented. Have an open mind. And even if you're like, I'll never buy that, okay, fine. We don't cover BSV all the time, but tonight it gets an honorable mention on a few different sources. And I want to share this with you because you know what? If you're wasting your money on meme tokens, maybe give this a try. I'm just throwing that out there. So what is this? Well, old Crypto Mike decided to get into this. Look at this for a second. The timeline. I want you guys to hear this out. We're always talking about the Bitcoin white papers referenced by many different people. You know that. But it says the timeline, 8th of January, 2009, Bitcoin white paper was basically released. The vision for Bitcoin is and supposed to be was outlined by its inventor, of course, Dr. Craig S. Wright. Some people say that's not the inventor. Just hear me out, okay? Please, just hear me out. Using the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto in the white paper entitled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. 4 months later, the first open source Bitcoin client software was released. Of course, also December 2010, Satoshi gets concerned and takes a sabbatical. Dr. Craig S. Wright was very explicit about his concerns that Bitcoin was being infiltrated by anonymous developers, criminals misusing it, and that it had become associated with the projects like WikiLeaks. This distortion of his tool was unacceptable and thus removed himself from the project to venture into more complex ideas like MetaNet. Now, let's fast forward to now August of 2017. Bitcoin Cash remains as Bitcoin, BTC forks away. And you guys can, verify this for yourself. I think we talked about this in a particular diagram that was shown in a last chopped up video. So again, you can look into that. When this gets chopped up later, you'll see the little thumbnail that will reference it at the end. Anyway, look at this for a second. Segregated witness, or SegWit. Shout out to Satoshi, is always talking about SegWit. Some of you guys know about it, some of you don't. This was designed to remove the tracing capabilities of Bitcoin, allowing the introduction of off-chain, opaque exchange solutions such as the Lightning Network. The introduction of this broke Bitcoin original protocol and clearly renders BTC as non-Bitcoin compliant and intentionally ineffective. On November 15, 2018, of course, BSV remains as Bitcoin. BCH forked away. BSV becomes the new ticker symbol for the original Bitcoin protocol when BCH decided to divert from the original Bitcoin white paper. Went from there to introduce non-Bitcoin compliant features, which also include introducing anonymity that hinders government and financial regulation. I know it's a lot to get into, and it's all verbatim, but in reality, if I skip anything here, I don't think it's going to make the point. So look at this for a second. Hinders government and financial regulation, I say. This is why it's considered Bitcoin's Independence Day. Interesting. And even before we get more into this, how about this for size? Were you aware that 2024 is also the year of the dragon? If you look at the actual Bitcoin SV logo, Satoshi vision, it's also the dragon. I don't know. Call it what you want. I always found that to be more than a coincidence. But February 2020, Genesis upgrade. The Genesis upgrade restored the original Bitcoin protocol as closely as possible to the Satoshi's original design, locking it down to create stability for developers and enterprises to build upon. Unbounding scaling returned. And by the way, I mean, I will agree with this. Even if you don't think that Craig Wright is Satoshi, is there anything out there that can touch BSV as far as scalability and TPS throughput? Nothing comes close. When I heard that whole thing of, $1 trillion plus, I know that sounds nuts, right? TPS, I was like, how's it even possible? It's like more time, like how much time is in a second? And then it's just like the TPS is faster than, it's like Superman, faster than a speeding bullet, even faster than that. It's absolutely insane. Anyway, that's beyond the point. Beyond scaling return, as the original Bitcoin script language allowed devs to build on-chain applications easier. 2022 onwards, Bitcoin sets numerous world records. Again, please think outside the box, because even if you're like, I don't want to touch that, but you'll touch a garbage meme token all day long, right? You know, I'm guilty of it. I touched that stupid Clifford Inu, right? So a lot of us touch that garbage, but you're not going to get involved with something like this because you're like, fake Toshi. Again, put aside whether Craig Wright is not the real Satoshi or not, the utility of BSV is so beyond impressive, you know? Just throwing that out there. So set numerous world records. Numerous world records have now been set on Bitcoin's original protocol, including regularly surpassing millions of transactions a day, right? Smoking it, to say the least. The largest blocks of plus 4 gigabyte, largest NFT. And you got to keep in mind, this part right here is a big deal. Because you want to know something? What is it with the original BTC? Was it like 8 megabytes? Like whoop-de-doo. Largest NFT, 1 gigabyte, and the lowest environmental impact of any proof of work POW chain. Very well worth pointing out. Unifying the BSV brands under, of course, BSV blockchain. The Bitcoin SV brands have been unified under the BSV blockchain umbrella, streamlining their approach, providing clear and cohesive identity for the project. And like it says, Bitcoin SV, a global infrastructure with unbounded efficiency. And look at some of the highlights. I mean, we're not going to take you straight to this article, but it is from bitcoinsv.com. 0.0006 is the average transaction fee. All NFT and smart contracts are, of course, on-chain. And like it says, 50,000 plus transactions per second. In reality, it's so much higher than that. So that is worth pointing out. Now, we're going to have to highlight some more things about this, and then we'll get back in the comments here in a bit. I'll make sure you guys can see this on your screen. So you have this from this guy. I want to give him a shout out. His name is Ryushi. Okay. So it says, copyright 2009 2023. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin creator Craig S. Wright granted U.S. copyright registrations for the white paper and code. Look at this quote for a second. Now it's a lot verbatim, but it's good stuff. In the case of the 2 registrations issued to Mr. Wright during the examination process, the office took note of the well-known pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto and asked the applicant to confirm that Craig Stephen Wright was the author and claimant of the works being registered. Mr. Wright made that confirmation. This correspondence is part of the public registration record U.S. copyright. The U.S. copyright registration certificates are, as you see here, U.S. copyright registration, all this stuff, right? I'm not going to get too into it. But it talks about the, April 11th, 2019, paper entitled Bitcoin Peer-to-Peer Cash, or excuse me, Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System with year of completion 2008. Interesting, because as we know, that a lot of people like look at the white paper in 2009. You got to keep in mind the inception probably 2008. The registration recognizes the author. Look at this, just in case you're on board with it, as Craig Stephen Wright using pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. A little bit more about this. U.S. copyright registration, this particular number, April 13, 2019, computer program entitled Bitcoin with year of completion 2009, date of first publication January 3rd, 2009. All these dates, if you look more into it, this all lines up. Registration recognizes the author as Craig Stephen Wright using pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. Write most of the version 0.1 of the Bitcoin client software. Interesting. And the registration covers portions he authored. How about this? All right. I know it's I don't know how I summarize this because there's so much nitty gritty here. Craig always held copyright ownership of the Bitcoin white paper and Bitcoin code authorized since the moment he created those works and fixed them into a tangible medium of expression. Most countries do not require registration of works, but in certain countries like the United States, an author receives additional benefits by obtaining copyright registration for his works. That is very, very true. In this situation, that is exceptionally notable is that the U.S. Copyright Office did not rubber stamp Craig Wright's copyright applications. The U.S. Copyright Examiner responded far more quickly to the copyright applications than normal within 3 business days, which is extremely unusual and extremely fast, and asked questions about applications. Think about this. This is getting really good, including recognizing that the Bitcoin white paper was a famous work and noting that there were questions about who is Satoshi Nakamoto. Everybody's asking that. You know, some people, even from the Ripple community, I'm part of the Ripple XRP community. A lot of people feel as though that Satoshi Nakamoto is like 4 or 5 or 6 different people, right? What do you think about this? Like it says, U.S. Copyright Office only issued the copyright registrations after Craig responded and confirmed his authorship. Contrary to what the naysayers are suggesting, the U.S. copyright registrations do carry, for instance, legality, right? That's kind of chopped off right there. Right. They do. It kind of carries that weight. Let's share some of this stuff. So you see copyright 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto. I mean, I could blow this up for you guys, you know, that much bigger, just in case if you're boomer effing sooner watching from his couch, right? I know I always say that, but I do. Yeah, I mean, look at it. This is so old school. Look at this. Copyright claimant. Just look at this for a second. Hopefully you see that. Copyright claimant, Craig Wright, address Cozen O'Connor, 277. Now I'm just blowing up that much more. 277 Park Avenue, 20th floor, New York, New York. Date of creation, 2009. Date of publication, 1/3/2009. So it still lines up. Application title, Bitcoin. Title, Bitcoin. Look at this for a second. Nation of first publication, United States. Authorship of application, Satoshi Nakamoto. Pseudonym of Craig Stephen Wright, 1970. Author of pseudonymous work, if I pronounce that right. Domicile, United Kingdom. Citizenship, Australia, as we know. He is from Australia. Authorship, computer program. Rights and permissions, Craig Wright. Cozen O'Connor. Again, that same address. Even gives, for instance, phone number, email address, names, Craig Wright, Craig Stephen. I mean, wow. All right, I'm going to show you guys just a tad bit more. Give me a second. Let's jump back to this for a second. Now let's blow this up a little bit more. Look at this. This is good. This is good research, in my opinion, whether you're on board with this or not. It says, in the case of the 2 registrations issued to Mr. Wright, during the examination process, the office took note of the well-known pseudonymous name of Satoshi Nakamoto and asked the applicant to confirm that Craig Stephen Wright was the author and claimant of the works being registered. Mr. Wright made that confirmation. This correspondence is part of the public registration record. All right, let me jump into this. I think this is the last part of this particular one. There's a little bit more, though, like from a different thing. I'll share this as well. All right. Look at this for a second. Look at this highlight. In this situation, hold on, let me start off the first part. You know it's not highlight. I apologize. It says, an author receives additional benefits by obtaining copyright registration for his works. In this situation, what is exceptionally notable is that U.S. Copyright Office did not rubber stamp, like we mentioned, Craig Wright's copyright applications. The bottom part. The U.S. Copyright Office only issued the copyright registrations after Craig responded and confirmed his authorship. Contrary to what the naysayers are suggesting, like we pointed out, copyright registrations do carry legal weight, and we look forward to working with Craig to ensure his original vision is recognized as Bitcoin and is realized through BSV. I mean, have we seen a single example yet that would suggest that this guy's BS? I'm just saying. I mean, I know a lot of you guys, think these guys fake Toshi and so on, but I don't see anything that points that he isn't who he states he is. Anyway, let's jump into, yeah, let's go to this other part. Hold on. This is also from Mike with his research. Dr. Craig Wright of N-Chain has been granted the patent for blockchain enforced smart contracts. Here, we're going to pull this up. Let's load it up. Look at this for a second. The URL comes from what? patents.google.com/patent EP3257191, 1B1, and so on. And I'm going to drop it into the chat for you guys to see this for yourself. Look at that. All right, so we're going to blow this up even more. Okay. What does it say? Registry and automated management method for blockchain enforced smart contracts. Who's the who's the patent office? European Patent Office. Look what it says here, guys. Look at that. Inventor Craig Stephen Wright, Stephanie Savannah. Current assignee N-Chain Holdings. Right, probably because he's the head honcho of that. Look at these other things. Applications filed by N-Chain Holdings all the way back to 2017. You have some of these classifications. I don't know, but apparently it's all there. Let's see if I can blow this up a little more. I don't know if I can. Some of the stuff I can't exactly get too big up into it. Interesting. But again, certain patents. I don't know if I could pull this up. Let me see if there's. You can nerd it out if you choose to do so, but apparently it's a real thing. All right, let me jump back for a second. Look what it says. It says it should. This is a quote. It should. Gotta double check you guys see this. It should be noted that the invention is not limited to use with the Bitcoin blockchain, and alternative blockchain implementations fall within the scope of course, the invention. Status active 216, I guess to 2037. That's crazy. Anticipated expiration. Here's Dr. Wright. Go to the next page. And it's just a reference of what we just said, basically. Okay. All right, this is the last part, and then we'll wrap this up, promise, because I have to wrap up things here soon too. Breaking. How long ago? Well, let me see. December 3rd. Okay, so not exactly too breaking, but I guess breaking for us who don't know about it. Again from Ryoshi. Breaking, crushing, and definitive victory for Craig Wright. Satoshi Coins case, U.S. Federal Court. For the U.S. Federal Court, does not hear any partnership in the creation of Bitcoin between Craig Wright and Dave Kleeman. And it also does not hear any error in the court's decision, and the case is officially closed. This was a definitive answer to Ira Kleeman's appeal. So, again, I don't think this is in relation to the COPPA trial. Right, this is a different particular one, to my understanding. Again, I got to look more into it, so apologize for that. But United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, the estate of Dr. David Kleeman, who in fact sued, of course, Craig Wright, an Australian computer scientist, claiming that Kleeman and Wright, who were friends, formed a partnership to develop the original Bitcoin protocol, to mine Bitcoin, and to develop related blockchain tech. The estate asserts that entitled to half of the Bitcoins purportedly worth billions mined through the alleged partnership. This appeal involves an ownership dispute stemming from the origins of the Bitcoin, or the original Bitcoin, not BTC, or possibly BTC. I don't know. Double check that. A jury ultimately found that no partnership existed and returned a verdict against the estate, which now appeals this. And we'll pull that up for a second. But again, this is another example where it's like, if this guy's not who he says he is, Craig Wright, you could sure fool me. So here's the actual document, United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. And this was posted, for instance, November 27th, 2023. So roughly what, last week, guys? I think so. Yeah, last Monday. So basically 8 days ago. You have, for instance, Southern District of Florida, Miami, Florida, appeal number. It's all here. A copy of this letter and the judgment form, if noted above, like it says, but not a copy of the court's decision, is also being forwarded to counsel and pro se parties. A copy of the court's decision was previously forwarded to counsel and pro se parties on the day it was issued. I'm pronouncing that right. The enclosed copy of the judgment is hereby issued as mandate of the court. Court's opinion was previously provided on the date of issuance. And there you go. It's like all the official stuff. It's all through. It's literally here. You know, Craig Wright, this other guy, David Kleeman. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, these nerd it out if you want. It's real long, but it's there. That's the point. And if anything, I could also drop that down in the chat for you guys. Okay. Take a look if you want. You don't have to. Jump back to this. It says under penalty of perjury, right? Because at the end of the day, court law, court of law, you solemnly swear and so on to, some people are like, well, he's lying. Well, if you have a mountain of evidence, I've yet to see where's the evidence stating that this guy isn't who he is. I'm just throwing it out there. And anyway, back to the topic. Under a penalty of perjury, Craig Wright testified before the court under oath that he mined the first 70 blocks of Bitcoin and that he received the necessary information and key to unlock the encrypted Tulip Trust. I don't know about the Tulip Trust. Some of you guys know about that stuff. Again, I haven't been covering BSV for 2 or 3 years and so on, but I thought I'd throw that out. It says now Craig Wright has free access to Satoshi's fortune. Now look at this. Here's the background on it. During litigation, the state sought discovery from Wright about his Bitcoin holdings, which it believed were relevant to establish the universe of Bitcoin mine during the alleged partnership between David Kleeman and, of course, Wright. A magistrate judge broadly agreed and on March 14, 2019, ordered Wright to produce a list of Bitcoin holdings as the last day in 2013, the year David died. Wright resisted, asserting that the information was impossible to produce. The gist of the position, as developed over several filings and in testimony and at evidentiary hearing, was as follows. Again, I apologize, guys. I try to do it, summaries and stuff, but honestly, how could you? I don't know. This is good stuff. How do you chop it up? Anyway, 2011, 2012, Wright transferred ownership of all Bitcoin he had mined or acquired or would acquire to the Tulip Trust, of which he was both a trustee and a beneficiary. Wow, that's interesting. Information about the trust Bitcoin was locked in a encrypted file protected by, quote, Shamir's secret sharing algorithm. What a name. An algorithm created by Adi Shamir to divide a secret, such as a private encryption key, into multiple parts. The key to the encrypted file was to split into 15 key slices and to be distributed through the trust. Wright controlled 7 of the 8 key slices required to access Bitcoin address information, and so was without access of his own. Nonetheless, Wright indicated that based on the arrangement with David before his death, he expected to receive another key slice by bonded courier back in 2020. A little bit more about this. Just 4 days later, listen to this, Wright filed a notice stating that a third party was provided the necessary information and key slice to unlock the encrypted file, and that he had produced a list of Bitcoin holdings as ordered by the magistrate judge to the plaintiffs today, or at least then. Here's a big mistake when most people think Craig Wright or Craig used inaccurate address for Satoshi's fortune, but what actually happened was this, quote, there were tens of thousands of addresses that Shatters compiled as an estimate for the judge. It is impossible to know the exact addresses, so all possible addresses were compiled together. Only 140 of those did not belong to SN. Under penalty of perjury, Craig has testified to the court that he mined the first 70 Bitcoin blocks, and of course, I'll drop that link for you guys as well. Here it is in the comments again. Take a look. Storage, right? You know, again, it's going to give you a whole grocery list. I'm kind of on a time constraint. Let's see how much time I got. I'm literally running late, so I might have to wrap this up soon. But Dr. Wright has done everything possible and necessary to comply, of course, with the court. Orders dated back on May 3rd, 2019. Here's some of them that reference. The orders produced a list of Bitcoin. For example, Dr. Wright hired one of the foremost discovery vendors, Alix Partners, to collect digital data from Dr. Wright's electronic devices. Number two, the trusts are designed, listen to this for a second, to hold secret the information and assets they received. Dr. Wright is the best person to explain the complex manner by which Bitcoin was mined, held in trust. We propose that he can do so at the court-supervised deposition by video conference or in London. An overview in lay person's terms on the matter, which in the trust assume ownership of the rights of the Bitcoin mined by Dr. Wright from 2009 to 2010 is set forth here. I know this is a lot of stuff, guys. Just bear with me. After Dr. Wright mined the first 70 blocks of Bitcoin, again, back to the juicy part, the public address for which was already disclosed, he implemented a unique proprietary algorithm that he created to automate the key generation process that each later block mine after block sending was assigned a different public address. From 2009 to 2010, he could view the many public addresses assigned to the Bitcoin he mined from block 71 starting in 2009-2010 by accessing the Bitcoin software on the computing devices he was then using for Bitcoin mining. In about June 2011, Dr. Wright placed into an encrypted file, one, the Bitcoin software he used. Number two, software components for additional Bitcoin applications. Number three, proprietary algorithm. Number four, other data for which the information about Bitcoin mined after block sending could be regenerated. Number four earlier. Technically, this would be number five. This is a typo from him. Dr. Wright long ago disposed of all computing devices he used to mine Bitcoin in 2009 and 2010. He did not keep any list of the public addresses associated with the Bitcoin he mined after block 70. This is, of course, where some people are going to say, well, why is that? Well, if this guy's so shady, he sure went through a lot of trouble to do this. I'm just throwing that out there, too. It says Dr. Wright ceased mining by the end of 2010. At the time, the value of Bitcoin fluctuated between 6 cents and 29 cents. August 30th, 2010, and December 27th, 2010. Again, reference. I have time to drop the link for you. You go to buybitcoinworldwide.com/price. I just said it verbatim. Last access, June 7, 2019. Indeed, at that time, the cost of mining and the cost of the machines used to mine far exceeded, of course, the value of Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin on June 27, 2011 was $16.13. And on October 29, 2012 was $10.74. Now, let's pull this up for a second. You saw some of this earlier, so I won't get back into that. And, of course, it says right here, Bitcoin peer-to-peer electronic cash system. I don't know if that's the original document. That's him right there with it. Number four, in sum, we affirm the district court's judgment affirmed. And then look at this. 4 days later, Wright filed a notice stating that a third party has provided the necessary information and key slides to unlock the encrypted file, and that he had produced a list of his Bitcoin holdings as ordered by the magistrate to plaintiffs today. So, guys, look, here's the bottom line, okay? And I think that's pretty much it for the most part. Well, this was from that one storage thing. Yeah, I'll read this real quick. Craig Wright's notice of compliance with court January 10, 2020 order. Dr. Craig Wright files this notice in compliance, I should say, with the court's order dated January 10, 2020. Specifically, Dr. Wright notifies the court that a third party has provided the necessary information, the key slice to unlock the encrypted file. And Dr. Wright has produced a list of Bitcoin holdings as ordered by the magistrate. Right. It's showing you the actual, what we're talking about here, but like in the actual government file, if you will, from gov.uscourts, et cetera, URL. But my thing is this, for a guy that supposedly is fake Toshi, as the saying goes, do we ever get one single bit of evidence that supported that he's not who he says he is? And if so, then let's have some people present that, because so far I'm not seeing any of that. Now, from what I gather so far, also, this is not in regards to the COMPA trial, but see what you want going into that particular trial. It's not looking good for, I guess you could say, the prosecution or whoever that is. Anyway, I present to you guys, say what you want, but like we talked about earlier, this whole thing about BSV, if you're playing around with meme tokens and so on, you got some money to gamble with that, why not just gamble on the one that could very well be like, hey, you know what, pick up some BSV. It's like investing into Bitcoin back in 2013 or wherever it is. I did, not financial advice, but the way I look at it, it's also peculiar that we are also seeing more and more exchanges making it more and more harder to purchase BSV. Now, why would that be? We didn't get a chance to talk a lot about Quant and some of the other ones tonight. You ever notice that even with Quant, these exchanges are running out of QNT and stuff like that? So there's a lot to be said about all this when you look more into it. And we'll continue to follow more about this.